Cool. All right, Kyle. So thanks for the opportunity to review this with you. I know there was quite a bit of information that you had to go over. There was, I think, 37 questions, give or take, talking about your sleep, your stress, but I appreciate the thoughtfulness. A lot of good material. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off kind of dissecting your responses, and I have a tentative game plan based on your responses. But before we kind of jump into that, what are one or two takeaways? Like, what did you realize while you were filling out this regeneration questionnaire?
A couple things that when you're thinking about regeneration, there's a lot of different things. There are questions about like the physical parts of it.
Sure.
There's questions about the stress.
Yep.
Questions about sleep. Yeah, I think it's just understanding that.
Yeah.
All of those can be somehow improved upon. Just to.
Did you find yourself learning something about during this questionnaire?
Yeah, I think maybe there could be some connections between my overall physical feeling based upon what my stress, how my stress is at certain times, and that all of those are probably a little bit intertwined.
Sure. I'm glad you brought that up because at the very end, the question asked, like, what do you want to get from this question or this interaction?
Yeah.
And you did mention stress management and getting your body back to normal.
Yeah.
So just kind of want to remind you of that because we're going to kind of tackle that. So again, thanks for filling out the questionnaire. You're a busy guy. You're a father. I believe your son is too.
Yep.
Awesome. You got a lot going on. Let's start with addressing stress because that's one of the beginning questions in the questionnaire. You did talk about work, family, and finances becoming 3 factors that contribute to stress.
Totally. If
you had to choose one, which of the 3 would you say is most controllable? And what I mean is, which is something that you can feel like I want to learn how to adjust this particular factor.
That's a good question and a hard question as controllable. Work, family, or finances. I think what's interesting about that question is it seems that work and finances are directly within my control. But it seems like in terms of the family, a lot of that is just discussion with my wife, figuring out, just how things can, how we can help each other and those things. So I don't know if I could actually define just one being the best, or I think they're all. I think all can be changed. I think they're all going to be maybe difficult to make changes from there. But I don't necessarily think maybe one is easier than the other.
Okay. And you did mention that when you do have stress, whether it's work, family, or finances, that you have practiced finding time of silence. Do you mind elaborating on that? What is that?
Yeah, totally. I'm definitely more introverted. So being at a job that requires me to talk all the time, I find that I really need times on the weekend of silence, of whether that be just being in my garden or being out in the ocean, just finding places that I can kind of recharge.
Yep.
But yeah, insights into the questionnaire that I was realizing is, especially with a 2-year-old and just having other things I need to get done, not having the opportunity to do those things as often. I would say more specifically, like, getting out in the ocean, things like that. But I do think ultimately that does affect my stress level. If I'm kind of go on the weekend and then have to then go straight into the work week on Monday again. So I had I'm burnt out from the week.
Sure.
And then didn't get that opportunity to recharge on the weekend. Kind of just, I think, builds up as in terms of a stress thing.
Got it. So it's safe to say that you do find that time on the weekends, I'm assuming, because you said the garden, out getting into the ocean.
Yeah. Sometimes I can. I think with my son being born, it's a little harder. To find that.
Yeah.
Probably honestly just requires more planning ahead of time.
Okay. Okay. We're going to come back to that, but I just want to make sure I got some clarification on what you're doing to find that time, and I'm pretty excited that you're actually being proactive to finding ways to do so.
Yeah.
Moving along, you talked about sleep and how stress impacts sleep. Do you mind elaborating
sure.
a little bit on that?
Yeah, I feel like I have a very standard sleep routine.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm always 9 to 9:30 to 5 a.m. in the morning. That's very standard.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is if I get stressed out, I do find myself waking up in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
having a hard time getting back to sleep.
And I noticed that on one of the questions that occasionally you wake up 3 to 4 times in the middle of the night. Is that correct?
Could be, yeah. Like
Yeah.
if I'm really, the more stressed I am, the
Yeah.
more I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
and then obviously that leads to just feeling tired the rest of the day.
Yes.
Hard to. So yeah, those are definitely some things that.
Okay.
The stress affects my sleep the most, I think.
Okay. So let me ask you, when was the last time, it could have been yesterday, the night before, when was the last time you woke up multiple times in the middle of the night because of stress?
Man, honestly, last week, man.
Last week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And based on the 3 factors that we discussed earlier, the work, the family, and the finances, do you mind sharing which of the 3?
Yeah,
What's on your mind when you-
this one happened to be more family, even though
Okay.
it was like close friend stuff.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, it was just big family changes.
Okay. Okay.
Some of the I understand some of those things are just out of your control. Like if
Gotcha.
those family things.
Gotcha.
This is a rare situation. Just
Gotcha.
coincidentally happens to be last week. That
Gotcha.
happened,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. But if it wasn't that family matter,
Yeah.
and because you did note that you still wake up with stress. 3
Good
to 4
point.
times.
Good point. Then yeah, I think it's mostly work.
Okay.
It would mostly be that either like a big presentation or something that I'm thinking about,
Mhm.
or a combination of that presentation I'm thinking about, where I wake up in the middle of the night and then honestly I'm just thinking of that presentation where
Sure.
you come up with an idea
Mhm.
and then I ruminate on that idea in the middle
Sure.
of the night, which is not great.
Yeah.
Which keeps me from
Yeah.
falling back
Yeah.
asleep.
Yeah.
And then maybe I fall asleep and then I think about that again and
Yeah.
then that just kind of snowballs into something.
Okay. With work-related stress, would you say, whether it's a presentation or whatnot, do you feel the following day when you have that work event, do you feel confident during that event?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say so, but it definitely affects my energy and my overall
Gotcha.
like I really need a weekend after that.
Gotcha.
But if I then have to do another work thing like I was mentioning where I don't have that opportunity to recharge again,
Mhm.
I feel like that just keeps
Gotcha.
snowballing into more stress.
And where I was getting at, I was just trying to see if it was like maybe not preparing enough. This almost sounds like anxiety to that work event, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with you not being prepared for the event. It's just being anxious because it's a big event, big work deal.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you did mention that you feel very supported.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind sharing who your support system is?
Yeah, my wife always super helpful with that. I've rarely, if I want to change something up, she's on board.
Good.
There's never really any. We have good communication.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great. Someone close in your circle happens to be your wife. It's a great support system.
And then on the top, I'm very fortunate to have my sister and my mom close by too. So I mean, they're
Good.
Awesome with our son. So
Good.
He's
Do you ever-
super helpful.
Do you ever express to her like your stress levels from work?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any
that's
reason
actually-
why?
I don't know. You know what's
Yeah.
funny? You mentioned that right now.
Yeah.
I feel like we talk about we want to make sure going back to the the finances. We
Yeah.
always have that in check. We're pretty straightforward on those things. The time. It's funny. We'll vent about work, but not maybe necessarily talk about the stress of work.
Gotcha.
Or she might mention a little bit. I actually don't. I don't ever mention my stress of work to her. Now that you mentioned it, it's a good question. Good thought right there. Yeah.
Okay. That's something I kind of had in mind in the next couple minutes or so is
Yeah.
kind of leveraging your wife. I'm glad that
Yeah.
she's your support system, but
Yeah.
maybe tag teaming collectively with some ideas that I have to share with you in just a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move along into sleep. So we talked about your stress impacting your sleep, and more specifically, you did mention though that with your routine, you're averaging about 7.5 hours of sleep. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. And you did mention that I made a notation because I thought it was pretty funny if it's okay with you. So you did mention that it's ingrained in you not to take naps.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, for sure. You know what? I come from both my parents as coming from immigrant families, and it's kind of messed up, man. I'm like, it's always looked down upon in my family.
Okay.
Like taking that, like if you're why are you napping in the middle of the day? Like you
Yeah.
should be doing something.
It's
So
like
I'm
a
not gonna lie,
productive-
it's like I can't. That has been ingrained in my system
Cool.
to just like it's not okay to take a nap. Honestly, the only time I can take a guilt-free nap is if I'm like up in the mountains.
Okay.
And I don't have anything else to do.
Maybe with nature bonding when
Yeah,
there's like nothing
yeah,
going on.
yeah. That is
Okay.
the only time I can take a nap.
Okay. Now, when you sleep, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is happening when you sleep? And I don't want to overcomplicate the question,
Uh-huh.
but do you feel like what's happening when you sleep?
You're recovering.
Yeah.
Your body's probably recovering both mentally and physically.
Great. So let's just stick on that. So
Yeah.
mentally and physically.
Mhm.
So if you're averaging 7.5 hours of sleep, which is great, and
Mhm.
you're having a high stress work environment,
Yeah.
do you think possibly napping could be somewhat advantageous, even though it's ingrained in you? We haven't got to the part
Yeah,
yet
yeah,
of
no,
saying,
for
hey, you're
sure,
going to start
for
taking
sure,
naps, but
yeah.
do you see the potential benefit?
Yeah. Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
So when you're sleeping, we're essentially trying to recharge the batteries,
Mhm.
and when I'm looking at this, I'm trying to find ways to combat stress, to get you feeling, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
a lot of mental clarity.
Mhm.
So something to kind of ponder is figuring out ways to possibly take a nap. I have some ideas, as I mentioned shortly, but we'll get
Okay.
to it.
Okay.
But okay, great. I'm glad to hear that you're open about it.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about is you did reference having low back pain recently.
Yeah.
You're getting back into the routine of things, which it almost sounds like you're rushing to get back into it. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
did mention that the stress that has been compounding has been giving you, in so many words, less motivation to exercise,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
And
You're
hence
right.
why you rushed back into the
Yeah,
gym.
you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And all right. So what I have here, actually, before I go into our game plan,
Mhm.
anything you want to add to the questionnaire or elaborate on kind of some of the feedback I've been?
Yeah, I
Giving-
think just to touch base on that last thing you just mentioned with in terms of like, back pain, stress, I think a lot of that is, I have standards of where I see myself in terms of like strength,
Yeah.
things along those lines. But if I'm stressed or don't have time,
Mhm.
then I don't do the necessary things, prep work,
Yeah.
to be able to still lift heavy, things like that.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I have a hard time not doing the same weight.
Yeah.
Which then leads probably to that back pain.
Yeah.
So, I think just something
Okay.
to add to that final
Okay.
thing there.
Cool. So what I have here, this is our rough template. This is our GSPA model, and essentially I just kind of wrote down everything we discussed.
Okay.
And this is done in pencil. We've done this written in pen. But again, it's something that I want us to work on collectively and find some simple action items
Okay.
to tackle what you mentioned, stress management being one.
Yeah.
And you mentioned getting the body back to normal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of broken down into two sections here.
Okay.
So the first skill I want to talk about is stress management.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be great because we have like this cycle. Stress combats your sleep, which mitigates your decreases your energy,
Mm-hmm.
less likelihood to work out, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
and then you still have like these standards that I should be able to do this, and
Okay.
that's possibly contributing to why you got injured.
Yeah.
So what I had in mind is we don't want to overcomplicate things,
Mhm.
and feel free to give me your honest
Sure.
opinion. Is
Sure.
the first practice that I want to focus on to
Yeah.
combat stress is possibly working on either breath work
Okay.
or what I call scanning in the morning. So I
Okay.
want to start with breath work first.
Yeah.
So because you have a strong support system and you did share for the first time that you don't really talk about your stress with your
Mhm.
wife, I can't tell you you should be talking to your wife.
Mhm.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
But I think to focus on combating your stress is possibly working on box breathing, and I can teach you how to do that.
Sure.
And it takes about 2 minutes tops. And the objective here is to do this right before you go to bed.
Okay.
You did mention that you have a night routine.
Yeah.
This is just going to add 2 to 3 minutes. It's not a big ask. It's
Yeah.
as long as you or
That sounds
assuming that
good.
it's
Sure.
and the goal here is to kind of calm your nervous system right before bed. And the more we practice this, the more it becomes routine. The more you're going to go into bed a lot more rested, whether it's prepared for a work event or whatever the case may be. That's kind of like what I'm thinking about in terms of like breath work and
Yeah.
combating stress.
Yeah.
The second option, again, I don't want to overwhelm you, but I want you to choose, or we
Yeah.
can adjust,
Okay.
is what I call scanning in the morning.
Okay.
So whether it's a work event or whatnot, is before you go to bed, not
Mhm.
necessarily like the minute before, but as the night winds down,
Yeah.
it's kind of looking at your schedule
Mhm.
and kind of seeing big picture, like what do I have that's going on? And we're not trying to control your schedule, but we're trying to understand
Mhm.
and validate what's happening. So if you're working, let's say 6 hours straight, you can say, oh, it's going to be a tough first 6 hours in the morning.
Right,
However,
right.
I can look forward to my break in which I can just rest, get some sunshine. You did mention you work in Manhattan Beach. There's a lot of sun out there.
Yeah.
That's what I call it with scanning in the morning. So you can anticipate the following day of what's to come. And that's going to better prepare you. So when that, the 6 hour block happens, you're not going to be overwhelmed because you know it's coming in advance.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can anticipate your break. So based on these two, to address improving stress management, which of the two would you like to work on first? Or add or change?
I think both are great ideas. What I'm kind of leaning towards on these is I like that breath work idea to wind down at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm almost thinking, what do you think about doing like a scanning first thing in the morning?
Yeah.
Or what do you think about that?
Absolutely. You could do that in the morning. The goal is just to do it in a time when you have mental clarity.
Yeah.
And so that could be a great suggestion is first thing in the morning, see your schedule ahead of time and just anticipate what's to happen. Our bodies do better when we know what's happening as opposed to being surprised.
Totally.
So it'd be a great way to kind of, you did mention your ritual coffee. You can just, take a deep breath, scan the morning, and just be realistic, acknowledge the potential roadblocks, the stressful conversations or interaction, or whatever it may be.
Totally.
You can definitely do that. And to simplify this even further, kind of what I have here is just a generic Monday, Wednesday, Saturday practicing box breath.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to throw 7 days a week. I just kind of threw it out there. Again, we can adjust the days and then the scanning in the morning because it's so like low ask. You can probably do it every morning. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think, why don't we, I almost feel like on the scanning, just to be honest with you, I think maybe even doing the same thing on the Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, instead of like an everyday thing.
Sure.
Pattern it to the same day, and then maybe we'll work on expanding that.
Yeah. And again, the goal here is, since I see you twice a week, is I'll just be touching base with you here. And every week we'll kind of sum it up. How has this been working for you on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And the goal is to slowly add. And over time, the goal here is for you to have better stress management.
Yeah.
the box breathing, end of the night, scanning in the morning so that you're not as stressed during the day. I think when you compound those two, I'm sure you're going to see some benefits with that.
No, that sounds great.
Cool.
That's a good
Excellent.
suggestion.
Any other questions with that piece?
No, that makes sense.
Awesome. The second thing I want to focus on, as you mentioned, is getting your body back to normal. Is focusing on body and what I call just tissue recovery.
Sure.
So I have two practices that I want to share with you. Let me know which works best for you.
Okay.
The first is just working on mobility. You did mention you hurt your low back.
Yeah.
And I think we can kind of combine this in since you did agree to practice box breathing, we can practice this on the off days. So what I mean is, since we're going to practice your box breathing Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, we can focus on, let's see what I wrote here. Some mobility work, so some light stretches. And again, towards the end of the night, to kind of calm your nervous system down, and I can give you 2 or 3 stretches. That's not going to take longer than 2 to 3 minutes to kind of alleviate the discomfort with your low back.
Sure. You think that should be done at night, like as a wind down?
Yeah. So again, it's just my suggestion because I do want you to. You already averaging 7.5 hours of sleep, so you have a night routine. My kind of vision is to amplify your restfulness leading up to sleep, so that you can wake up with more energy.
That makes sense.
So you can practice 2 or 3 stretches that I'm going to show you how to do.
Yeah. And
that way you can just unwind in yourself.
Totally. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Cool. The other option, still tackling body and tissue recovery, is foam rolling. I'm going to prescribe you 2 to 3 exercises or foam rolling drills to kind of target the pelvic region to alleviate the pain on your lower back. Again, the goal here is to give you options and see what you like. Well, we can adjust. Yeah. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Let's kind of get a list together and maybe just experiment. Like, what's the easiest to follow through with?
Yeah.
can't promise I'm going to do all of those every night, but maybe I can find one or two, or maybe I rotate them throughout the week.
Yeah,
Might just a little bit of trial and error.
No, absolutely. Having said that, though, would you be more open to cycling, stretching, or foam rolling?
I think both are equally.
Okay, both.
Yeah, I don't think one is a bigger ask than the other.
So then what I'll do is I'll make a notation here. What I'll do is I'll combine them on the list together and give you the autonomy to say, well, I kind of want to foam roll today, even though...
That sounds great, yeah.
And then, again, we'll touch base with this on a weekly basis, and then we'll slowly add if necessary. And if we find that your compliance is not there for whatever natural response, we'll kind of scale it back. But I think taking these actions, it's going to help you with recovery and get your body back to where it needs to be.
That sounds great.
Awesome. Any other questions you had for me or feedback?
No, I think that was a great breakdown, John.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot. See you
Thanks,
Monday.
John.
Yep.
All right.